So Joe Manchin went on CNN, and he has a message for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the reconciliation bill. Now, we just got word yesterday that there has been a deal on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. They say they have 60 votes. They say they can get it through regular order. Usually what that means is the provisions are trash because you're giving the Republicans, the bill's at least half just what the Republicans want, maybe more if that's the case. So they're doing cartwheels, and now Joe Manchin is pumping the brakes on the partisan reconciliation human infrastructure bill. Here's what he had to say.
Can you guarantee to AOC that a reconciliation package will pass the Senate? Because her concern is that this infrastructure bill might be bipartisan, but it's scaled back so much, it's not as bold as it should be and what the country needs. Can you guarantee her that the reconciliation package will pass?
I can't really guarantee anybody, and I have not guaranteed anybody on any of these pieces of legislation. We would like to do more. Yeah, you can do what you can pay for. This is paid for. Our infrastructure bill is all paid for. We don't have a debt that we're going to incur more debt and throwing onto it. And on the other, as far as the reconciliation bill, should be looked at the same. That's why I said we're going to get the budget resolution. Let's start the process and then see where it goes. On that, we should just work in good faith and be honest with each other so no one's misled any way, shape, or form. And there should be no quid pro quo. You do this, I'll do this. When it comes to big legislation, does it help the American people? How do you tell over 80% of the people, Democrats and Republicans, that we can't do an infrastructure bill, a traditional infrastructure? There's a lot of need out there for the human infrastructure, I understand. But some of these programs that they're going to be putting in place could be in perpetuity. And even though it only has a 10-year run on it, so it's been scored at 10 years at 3.5, it might have perpetuity, would be 5 trillion or more. So we have to look at everything and be honest with ourselves.
All right, so there's a lot there. From the top, he said, I can't guarantee anybody on any of these pieces of legislation. Fact of the matter is he's going to support the so-called bipartisan bill. And right now, he does not support the partisan reconciliation human infrastructure bill that has stuff like universal pre-K, 2 years free community college, and things of that nature. So he says, I can't guarantee anybody on any of these pieces of legislation, but the fact of the matter is his vote is there for one of those pieces of legislation and not the other. Now, again, I'm furious as I read the headlines on this stuff because everybody's doing this Kabuki Theater where they act like the work is done, the job is done, we have the deal on the bipartisan piece, but the House progressives are very clear about this. They say, don't come to us with this bipartisan bill unless you also pass the partisan reconciliation human infrastructure bill. And that's being ignored by many Democratic senators. That's being ignored by the media, and they're already doing cartwheels in the streets over the bipartisan bill. Did you not hear us? Did you not hear the left when the left said, get that trash out of here unless you also pass the partisan reconciliation bill? They just act like nobody said that. And you know what? They're probably operating under the assumption like, the left will fold anyway, so what does it matter? Let's pretend like the work is done on the bipartisan bill. All right, do that, at your own peril, because fact of the matter is, this is one where, at the very least, the left is drawing this hard line, and then they're going to use that hard line to actually have a seat at the table to negotiate in good faith for a very good partisan reconciliation human infrastructure bill. And if that's the case, if we get a bill that's like $2 trillion or more, and you get some great provisions like universal pre-K and 2 years free community college, so on and so forth, well then this strategy of playing hardball like Joe Manchin actually worked. So Manchin's just, he's trying to be cute here, like, I can't guarantee votes on any of this stuff. No, you can't guarantee a vote on the better bill. You effectively are guaranteeing a vote on the worst bill. And then what's his reasoning? Again, he's been saying, and I'll explain to you the trick that Joe Manchin is playing here, because it is a trick. Joe Manchin says, well, this bill is paid for. The bipartisan bill is paid for. So that's why I support it, because we're not doing anything irresponsible like adding to the debt and the deficit. What he's not telling you is the partisan reconciliation bill, the better bill, was paid for as well. It was paid for. But Joe Manchin said, I don't like the way you pay for it. So in other words, they were going to raise taxes on the wealthy and raise corporate taxes to pay for the entire partisan bill. But Joe Manchin steps in and says, I don't want to raise taxes on the wealthy too much, and I don't want to raise taxes on corporations too much. So hold on. You say, in order to get your support, it has to be paid for. Then the left says, okay, here, we paid for it. And you say, but not like that. Well, then how do you want to pay for it? If you don't want to pay for it by raising taxes on the wealthy and on corporations, how do you want to pay for it? Do you want to raise taxes on the working class? Do you want regressive taxes? How do you want to pay for it? It seems like you're just using this as an excuse to not support the partisan bill. And that's exactly what's happening. Well, guess what then, Joe? You're not going to get your shitty partisan bill with your asset recycling and your privatization of our infrastructure. How you like them apples? You got to fight. You got to fight the exact way that he's fighting. And you got to raise him, and you got to be willing to shoot the hostage. The other thing is, I love how he cites this as if it's a bad thing. He says, well, the partisan bill, some of the programs could be in perpetuity. Good. Social Security was in perpetuity. It's one of the most popular programs in American history. Medicare was in perpetuity. It's one of the most popular programs in American history. Turns out, when you have things in perpetuity, and they're good and they help the American people, they love it, and it makes you more popular, not less popular. Which gets to the other point, which is massively ironic, which he's like, some of these provisions are 80% support. And you have, the progressives in the House saying they're against it. Well, I can't believe that. Yeah, but some of the provisions of the partisan bill, in fact, probably almost all of the provisions, are also massively popular. Well over 50%, well over 60% for a lot of these things. And when it's provisions that help the American people, that help working class people that are that popular, you don't give a fuck about the popularity. Because then you trot out your dumb excuses like the deficit and the debt and whatever. So spare me. Oh yeah, Joe Manchin citing polls on what's popular. You know what else is popular? A $15 minimum wage in West Virginia, and you didn't support it. So I don't want to hear polls talking about polls. If you want to talk about polls, okay, then implement that standard across the board, objectively, and say, I'll support the bipartisan bill because a lot of provisions are popular. But I'll also support the partisan bill because a lot of provisions are popular, if not more of the provisions are popular in the partisan bill. So I love that he brings up numbers like that. I mean, that is infuriating because we've been telling you for the longest time, this stuff is popular. The polls are overwhelming on this stuff. And he just swats it aside and says, I don't know, the debt, the deficit, something about taxes, whatever. Give me the shittier bill. I'll support that. The better bill, I'm not on board for that yet. Okay, well then, you're making your bed and you're going to sleep in it. And I would love nothing more than for the left to essentially break the back and the will of Joe Manchin on this. Again, what they think is, we'll get the bipartisan thing through, and that'll be that. By the way, his threat is this. He says, oh, maybe we don't need the House progressives. Maybe we'll get enough Republicans on this in the House. Maybe there'll be 15 Republicans that come along, or 20 Republicans that come along, or 100 Republicans who come along. We'll see. So what Joe Manchin wants to happen is he wants the shittier bill to pass, and he wants only the shittier bill to pass. He wants the bill that has asset recycling and privatization of large swaths of our infrastructure. He wants that to pass, and he doesn't want the better bill to pass. And he's letting you know that. And so just remember who Joe Manchin is. Just remember who he is, because he's telling you exactly who he is right here. And to the House progressives, I say this. Stand strong. Take your position and rep it. And don't be afraid to shoot the hostage. And also, if your position gets you a seat at the table, which it will, in the further negotiation on the partisan bill, then negotiate courageously. And like I said, I think a win would be a bill that's $2 trillion or more. And obviously the provisions matter because the devil's in the details. You want to keep in the best provisions like the universal pre-K and the 2 years free community college. And you want to make sure you have like the best provisions stay in. And you also want to make sure that you don't have anything regressive that falls on the working class in terms of the pay force. So we can't comment too much on it now because we don't see the final partisan reconciliation bill. But the fact that the left is drawing this hard line does guarantee them a seat at the table because they have the ability to kill the entire bill. And so stand strong, keep doing that. Don't be afraid to shoot the hostage. And also negotiate courageously, where I would say the red line should be, it's got to be $2 trillion or more. Don't give me this like $1.5 trillion or $1 trillion bill, because then you didn't do a good job negotiating it. And if it has to be the case that you walk away and you take the whole thing because you can't get Manchin and you can't get Sinema and Biden can't get Manchin and Biden can't get Sinema, then so be it. So be it, because at least you will assert yourself and let everybody know you're a force to be reckoned with. And that's priceless, honestly. to have that recognition is priceless. And also remember, if they fuck you on this, and they might, let's say you tank it because it's not good enough, and they still find a way to pass the bipartisan bill by getting Republican support, you can call a press conference after that and say this: there's not a single piece of legislation that's going to pass the House from here on out, because we have enough votes to block anything from here on out. So we're done with doing anything in the House unless and until Biden breaks out that executive order pen and legalizes marijuana and eliminates student loan debt. And it's not on me, it's on him. He's telling the majority of the American people he's against their beliefs. And this is supposed to be a representative democracy, so represent the people. We're standing up for the people. And so in other words, if they fuck you, you can just raise the stakes and say, fine, you're not getting anything else through the rest of the time. Sorry. Unless you do this. So you can throw your weight around, but you have to be strong. You have to band together. You have to say fuck you to the media when the media shits on you. You have to say fuck you to leadership when leadership shits on you. Got to be strong. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but Manchin is still trying to do Manchin shit and still trying to get everybody to fall in line and abide by his will. And the time is here, and the time is now to fight back. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.